Thank you for joining us. This is Mature Living, and I'm Mary Yanez, the director of the Senior Adult Program. We have an interesting topic to start our show off today. We're going to talk about chiropractic care. As we get older, you know, we change, our body changes, everything changes. So we have to maybe pay more attention to our bodies and what we're feeling. And so we've invited someone that's going to help us to explain all the things that we have to look for and pay attention to, and is Dr. Thomas Georges. He's the owner of the Georges Chiropractic and Wellness Center. And they're located over in the Far East, but we're going to talk to Dr. Georges and get to know him as well. Hello, Dr. Georges. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me a little bit about yourself and your chiropractic practice that you...
Well, myself, I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois.
Okay.
I have been in El Paso now for 34 years, so I pretty much consider myself an El Pasoan.
Oh, good.
Chiropractic itself is based on the idea that the human body is meant to be healthy. That it is a self-healing, self-regulating mechanism, and it just so happens that that ability is carried through this thing we call the nervous system. And 98% of your nervous system actually comes out of your spine. So we focus on the spine. We have typically gotten into the niche of back pain, neck pain, arm numbness, headaches, that kind of thing. But it's really an overall idea that the body is healthier if it communicates with itself a little bit better.
Yes, and you know, tell us a little bit of your thoughts, what we need to think about as we get older, because our bodies are not the same as when we were younger and teenagers even.
Yeah, this idea that we can continue to do the same old thing the same old way and continue to be healthy, I think is a bit of a misnomer. As we all get older, there's a couple things I tell my patients. Number one, we all have limitations. Recognize where they are, okay? I'm not 18 anymore, you're not 18 anymore, I'll probably never run a 6-minute mile again, and I have to accept that, but it doesn't mean I can just give up on everything. So this idea that when you invest in yourself now through exercise, through better diet, through stimulating your mind, that type of thing, that pays off down the road. It pays off 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. So we have to do more in order to maintain. And I would encourage everybody to keep looking at the way you eat, the way you move, the way you think, and look at those little subtle changes that you can do in order to be healthier. We can all do that.
And does the body tell us? Does the body gives us those tips?
I believe it does. Although I would warn people, we typically, Mary, how do you know when you're healthy?
I guess maybe nothing hurts.
Stop. It's the number one answer, truly.
Really?
Now I have a question for you. Could you, God forbid, have cancer, diabetes, or heart disease and not know it?
Yes, because like heart disease is a silent killer.
It is, as sometimes cancer and the other ones. So the point being, you could actually have something going on in the body and not feel it. The body doesn't always give you that warning. So personally, especially with something like cancer, I'm pretty sure you don't want to sit around and wait for a symptom of that. That's why we go to doctors. That's why we get our examinations. That's why we do things in order to try and identify that stuff. And as Americans, guess what? We're really good at ignoring symptoms.
We are.
We truly are. How many people take Advil every day just to feel normal or to remove some pain? Well, gosh, maybe there was a reason for that pain. It's the body's way of telling us something isn't quite right.
And as you, what types of ailments do we know that we need to go to our chiropractor?
The typical thing that we see is the back pain, the headaches, the different things like that. So I would recommend to people, look, I think some of that is reasonably normal, especially as we get older, but if it becomes persistent, continual, that type of thing, and a good test is if you're having to rely on an over-the-counter painkiller more than once a month or so, you might want to get checked out. Find out what's going on and why it's happening.
You know, sometimes we talk to people that go to their chiropractor because they need adjustment. Is that one of the treatments that you do? And when do you need adjustment? Because sometimes people have had an injury or fell off a horse when they were in their 20s, and then now it's like, oh.
You bet. You pay the price for those injuries. I call it paying for the sins of my youth.
Yes.
But yeah, and you throw out the word adjustment. It is what we do. We identify the joints in the spine that are, I'm going to use the word dysfunctional, and we do our best to keep those moving. And what that does is allow your nervous system to have less irritation and hopefully allow your brain to talk to your body the way it was designed.
Inflammation is really bad with, what is it, arthritis and things like that.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about that.
By literal definition, arthritis is an inflammation of a joint. It's funny, in today's world, I could get 100 people that are 35 or older, and there is a very good chance I'm going to see some form of an arthritis in their spine. It's amazing how common it is. And I think people ask me all the time, why? Why do I have this degenerative joint disease in my spine? And my mind goes to this idea that at some point they probably injured it and it didn't heal properly. But I think it's bigger than that. I think if you look at our diets are inflammatory in today's world, you know, our lack of water intake, there's a lot of reasons.
Wow,
yeah, and inflammation's a really nasty thing in the body. It's not
Is
good for us.
arthritis hereditary?
Some are.
Okay.
They can be. I don't particularly subscribe to the theory that degenerative joint disease is hereditary. I think there can be a predisposition, and I don't think we want to go down that epigenetics road. But the idea, you know, we only have 15 minutes, so
Yeah, that's
we'd
true.
love to discuss that. But,
We could get really technical here.
Let me say this: don't blame your parents for anything.
Okay, good.
Because it disempowers you. It truly does. So even if you had a genetic predisposition to something, work at it. Okay, and that's that whole epigenetics thing.
So this, your practice in chiropractic care, how does it help seniors?
Well,
Older adults?
yeah, a lot of seniors have these degenerative conditions. It's very common, and anything we do to keep those joints in the spine functioning properly, it helps with flexibility, movement, less symptoms of the nerve irritation will create. So really in a multitude of ways.
Yeah, so it's helpful to check it out. And
I
to
think
go,
so. I personally think
and
so.
a consultation would be, an initial consultation is advisable.
Yeah, I mean, I tell all my new patients, look, you're here today for me to see, number one, what's going on with you, and number two, to see if I think I can help you. And if I can, I will, and if I can't, I'll tell you where you need to go.
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm thinking about the some key, I guess you could say, points or things you have to notice when you need to go see and get that consultation by a doctor, a chiropractic doctor, a wellness care center, you know. So what are those indicators?
I think the most common is somebody that is having some degree of either chronic pain and or progressive weakness. We see that a lot. It's actually more significant than the pain. So somebody will start tripping because they can't pick up their leg, or they'll start losing dexterity in their hands, or numbness and tingling, that kind of thing. That's pretty much a neurologic event. Okay, and we have to figure out why. And if it's related to the spine, a chiropractor can help them in all likelihood. If it's something else, they need to get that evaluated.
You know, there's, I've got a couple more minutes left well, I have enough time. We have about 5 more minutes with our interview, so I know I haven't asked something that maybe you want to touch on. I threw one at you. You know.
Yeah, it goes back to this idea that I encourage people to really invest in their health. Do things different now, even though you might feel okay. Be willing to take that walk. Be willing to clean up that diet a little bit. Be willing to stimulate your mind. Do the things you need to do now. It is an investment in your future, and people need to understand that. When do people make changes in their lifestyle?
They make changes when they're forced to, because we don't do it,
So,
early in the game.
Define force to. What would force somebody to make a change in
When
their
you're
lifestyle?
hurting,
There
when,
you go.
when you can't walk,
Traumatic?
when you fall, you have an accident.
You bet. Traumatic event, okay? Diagnosis of cancer, diagnosis of diabetes, diagnosis of heart disease. It's these fearful events that finally cause people to make changes. I'm going to suggest to you the suffering's optional. You can make the change now and potentially ward that off, okay? That's what I want people to think about.
And can you start at any age?
Any age.
Really?
Absolutely any age. I don't care how young or old you are, there's never a better time to start improving your overall health.
One of the things that most people don't think about is how important water is, because dehydration, and that's bad for your skeletal, for every part of your body, I would imagine.
How much?
Oh gosh,
What should you have?
I can't do I can't do gallons, because you have to flavor it, and you got to get tea, or you got to. Well, coffee, does that count?
It's funny you ask that, because does coffee have a lot of water? And the truth is it does. But it's contaminated water. It has other things in it, and it's not going to have the affinity for the byproducts of normal cellular metabolism and excrete it through the body. So plain old water is the best. And I was going somewhere with my question. Think about this: half your body weight in ounces.
How much?
That's a wonderful general way of looking. Because when I ask the question, most people say what? 8 glasses, right?
Yeah.
Or you said gallons, or half your body weight in ounces is a really good idea on water.
Boy, so
but just plain old water, okay?
Not that
Yeah,
other Kool-Aid
yeah.
stuff. Or soda.
Sweeten it. Yeah,
Or
exactly.
sweetener. Don't sweeten it. Just take it as it is. It's the most natural
You bet. You
way
bet.
to stay healthy.
You bet.
I know that there's some people that are going to be seeking chiropractic care, and so they'll be coming to your office. And where can they find you? And if they have additional questions, how can they reach you?
We are at 1400 Zaragoza, so we're far east. I would invite anyone to call our office, 592-3333. If they legitimately have a question, tell my staff. They saw me on TV and give us your name, and I will call them back within the day. I'll be happy to do that for them.
And I'm sure there's questions, like I say, there's people watching, and they were interested in our conversation. They're interested in wellness and self-care, and this is one of the ways that you can do it. And I really appreciate you being here and taking time from your office to and from your patients to come and visit us, Dr. Georges, Dr. Thomas Georges. We've been talking with him, and he's been so helpful to educate us. And we'll be back with more guests in a little bit. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary. Have a great day.
Well, thank you for staying with us here on Mature Living. As you know, we want to continue our conversation about topics that are really, really important to our community. So we've invited a couple of employees from the Department of Family and Protective Services, and we're familiar with the older adult, the adult services, but we haven't really talked about children. And because April is the month for prevention of child abuse, we thought it would be a good topic to do. So we've invited Sonia Avila, who is, and you have a long title, right? I'm gonna have to put
sort of.
The title is the Faith-Based and Community Engagement Specialist. Thank
Yes,
you for
ma'am.
being with us, Sonia. I know
Thank you
it's the
so
first
much for the
time.
invitation.
It won't be the last. And then you brought, of course, Angelina Marquez, and you are the CPS kinship caseworker. That interests me so much on that kinship. I want to learn what that is all about. So tell us a little bit about your department?
Yes, so I'm the Faith-Based Community Engagement Specialist, which is a program under the Department of Family and Protective Services. And what we do is we support our programs, investigations, child protective services, and, with, of course, our building relationships, maintaining relationships with our community, the faith-based community, and all the other services that provide their program services to our families and children. So, my job is being out in the community, but I'm part of a larger department, Department of Family and Protective Services, which oversees child protective services, investigations, statewide intake, prevention and early intervention, as well as adult protective services.
Wonderful.
So we're part of a bigger network here.
And I'm wondering about statistics. How do we rate from other cities in Texas? Is there anything that we have to know? Because, even with adult protective services, report, because that keeps the money flowing into our community, right? Kind of the same way that it does on the other side of the house.
Well, I can tell you that last fiscal year, we had approximately about 4,100 investigations conducted here in the El Paso County alone. Yes. So you can just imagine what some of the bigger cities, numbers look like. As well as we also had a little bit over 1,700 children that were confirmed victims of child abuse. Yes. So, we're talking about over 1,700, which is too many. One alone is too many. Children enduring abuse and, of course, the trauma of being abused, maybe now being involved with other systems, yes, such as investigations, child protective services. In some cases, the children are separated from parents, whether it's temporarily or maybe long-term. And depending on the case, every case is different, every family is different.
So. And I think that people don't have to worry if they just suspect that something's going on with that child. Maybe they're outside too long. Maybe they haven't eaten. Maybe, just suspect that there's something going on. And it's anonymous, right, when they report?
Reporter can be anonymous, definitely. I'd like to state that, as a matter of fact, neglectful supervision, you mentioned, staying out too long. But neglectful supervision is the number one most reported allegation when it comes to child abuse. After that, you have the physical abuse and the sexual abuse. Yes, what we want to encourage our community to do, anyone really, is if they suspect abuse and neglect, to report it. Of course, you have your mandated reporters, your professionals, for example, educators, medical, law enforcement, ourselves, right? And we're mandated reporters. So by law, we have to report any type of abuse or neglect.
Well, thank you so much for that. I think she's given us a lot of information, and I want to just segue into kinship. Tell me a little bit, Angelina, about kinship, the kinship program.
Kinship is a program where we work with relatives, grandparents, aunts, or even close family friends who are willing to take care of children in their home and provide them, a safe environment so they don't have to go into a foster home. And that's what we do in kinship.
And are these volunteers, these elders?
Yes, we have a lot of grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, even close family friends.
So it doesn't have to be just seniors.
No.
Anybody.
Anybody.
They could be tios and tias. And
anybody within the family that wants that wants to support the family,
yes,
prevent children from going into a foster home, and can open up their homes and hearts to these children.
And so their role is to take them into their home and continue that care that children need.
Yes.
that support.
Yes, they'll be the child's main caregiver. They're responsible for their medical, for the children to be attending school, taking them to and from visits with their parents, any other psychological treatment that they may need. They need to provide, the transportation and follow through with the recommendations of
Yes.
the services.
And do they get vetted also, the kins in the kinship program? Is there a way that we can assure that, that child is in the right place, that it doesn't go into another,
Yes,
problem?
once a relative or a close family friend is identified, we do vet. We conduct background checks, home studies, and once we get the home study, then it has to be approved
Yes.
for placement.
And you as a caseworker, are you one of many caseworkers, or are you one that just takes care of the kinship?
Here in El Paso, it's 3 kinship workers, and we take care of the kinship program.
Wonderful. Do you have, is it difficult to get family members to take on that role and to accept those children that need them? Or do they come out and say, yes, I'll do it, and you don't have any issues?
It depends. Like Sonia was saying, every family is different. We have families that, they're there and ready to, step
in.
into that role. And sometimes it takes time because there is history, and sometimes relatives are frustrated with the parents and think there's not going to be a change. So they're a little reluctant to becoming a caregiver.
Yes. So at the time when a child is discovered that is having issues and problems with parents or whoever their caregivers are, is there a time when you reach out to the kins, to the family members to help? Is there a time you take them in, right? Mm-hmm. And you put them in a safe place, and then it takes time to find. Is that the best thing to do?
Usually, of course, we're not going to work on any cases that have not gone through statewide intake. So statewide intake is one of the programs under Department of Family and Protective Services. So all cases have to be reported, go through statewide intake. From there, then they are assigned to the investigations program. An investigation, they gather all their information, talk to, of course, the children, the parents, anybody else that may live in the home. And so there's going to be cases where, they're simply no abuse, no neglect, they're closed. Maybe there are some that, we still would like to work with the family. There's maybe some little red flags, not completely ready to go as a legal case, but also, enough for there to be concerns. So we can send them to our faith-based, not a faith-based, family-based safety services, and where our caseworkers in that program continue to work with our families while the children remain in the home. Our goal is family reunification.
Yes.
We want children to be with their parents, with their caretakers, right? But when that is not the case and children are not safe, then what could happen is that, there may be temporarily removals, and, that's when children can become part of the state legally. So a legal case opens up, right? And sometimes we want to identify those families, the kinship families, immediately. Sometimes children have to go to foster care, but we continue to work with, and try to identify kinship families. And at all times we will ensure that children are safe, that children, can remain with families, because even when they become a permanent child of the agency, our caseworkers, our other what we call conservatorship caseworkers, continue to search for families that may want to now adopt those children in foster care, and whose maybe parents have, their rights have been terminated. So now they're up for adoption.
Well, we appreciate
but at all
your
times,
work.
we want, we want that our goal to be family
Reunify.
reunification.
And it's a tough job. it's a tough job to work in your areas, you know. I just, you know, want to wish you well with all your cases and make sure that those children are safe and that they're happy and they continue to grow to be productive adults. Now, I wanted to ask you about prevention resources and also about any activities that you hold during April, so we can wait for next year also. In April, we can participate.
So April is National Child Abuse Prevention Month. Of course, it's not, you know, that month alone. We want to make sure we're that voice for the children. We report abuse, you know, throughout the year, right? Not just April. But during April, our biggest event that we have here in Texas is Texas Go Blue, which celebrates this coming in April.
Or
celebrate it. Yes, yes.
Darn it.
We
Okay.
celebrate it, you know, April 8th, and that event kicks off the month. And throughout the state, nationwide, you know, there are programs out there. Here in El Paso, we've had the Go Blue. Have received a proclamation, a resolution. We will be holding on the 28th a parent cafe, which is going to focus on prevention and open to parents or caretakers. So we have had a few events this month, but we want to make sure that, you know, people know that they can report, that they can, you know, become educated about, you know, what they can do, what is child abuse, and you know, just spread the word. Wear blue, and you know, so that
Got
we
a
can
couple of
support.
minutes left. So I'd like to ask you, what number can you give if people haven't, you know, need information or want to ask you something that I may not have covered already?
Yes. So the number to report child abuse or neglect is 1-800-252-5400. 1-800-252-5400. And it really does take a community, right, to maintain our children safe. We need our community. We need our community to be that voice, those eyes, you know, for the children to report abuse. And most important, if you see a family out there that, you know, we're maybe going through crisis, step in and assist, hopefully prevent abuse, neglect, right? And then, of course, we need all of our services programs in the community to provide, you know, services to our families and children.
You have the Rainbow Room, by the way?
Yes.
Okay, you have the resources where people can donate to the Rainbow
Yes,
Room.
yes.
And they can donate new shoes, clothes, you know, all kinds of things that the children need in the winter, children need in the summer.
Yes.
I just wanted to mention that because
Yes.
that's one of the resources that I know you provide, and it's wonderful. I also wanted to give this other number where they can call, that 915-521-3704.
Yes.
That's another good
Yes.
number. I really appreciate you taking time from your busy schedule and serving our community and helping children, you know, that are in need. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Thank
and
you
we'll
so
invite
much
you
for
again. I
having
know
us.
it wasn't enough time, but we'll invite you again to take on some more
Yes.
of this topic. Okay,
Great.
we need to protect our children in this community, and I guess we'll see you all next week. We certainly hope you had a beautiful Easter, and that all the children here in El Paso had a lovely time with those Easter eggs and Easter hunts. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for
And we'll
having
see
us.
you all next week.